This is a very short video, mostly for lessons learned on transmission maintenance for the BMW 6 Series. This example is a 2014 640i xDrive. This particular job is removing and replacing the fluid and replacing the filter, which is integral with the transmission pan. I won't go into fine detail on which wrenches, sockets, bits, or torque settings to use because there are any number of videos on that and the specifications apply to your particular model anyway. The car does not actually have to be lifted like this, but it helps a lot. If you use jacks and jack stands, keep in mind that you will have to run the engine and the wheels several times at the end of the process. Start by removing the cover and braces.
Right, go ahead. For Alan, Mr. Allen.
This is a good place to note that the kit with the transmission pan comes with a new fill plug and new bolts.
God bless you, sure.
I suggest you catch and measure the fluid as it comes out so you'll know you got at least that much back in, and you'll also know if there's a difference. That happens so low. That's nice and slow.
It's pretty dark, doesn't it?
It does.
That's good, it's used, right?
I got the pan. See how much of a mess Some oil will be trapped in the pan and filter. Be ready for that. The new pan has a fresh filter. Compare that to the black one you just removed. At this point, apply fresh oil to the rubber seals you see in the new transmission pan. Here's where this job really sucks, and it's all because there is no transmission filler on this car. You have to fill as you can, Start the engine, fill it again, start the engine and run the gears, and then fill it again while it's still running. You refill by putting the new oil in a simple pump you can easily find on Amazon. It's also easy enough to run the fill tube over the cold exhaust as you see here. It turns out this is a really bad idea because eventually the exhaust heats up during this process. The solution is in the lessons learned. Fill until it overflows a little bit. Hold your finger on the overflow so you can let the oil settle and fill again. You'll keep doing that until eventually you get to a point where the oil's not going to settle anymore and you know you've done as much as you can. I'm sorry, but at this point the camera battery failed. I just seriously underestimated how long all this was going to take. So we'll go right into the lessons learned and I'll do the best I can for you. These are the tips that did not stand out in the other videos I watched before I did this job. While you're assembling your tools and parts and oils, go to the dealer and buy a 10-pack of those little fasteners that hold all the panels together on the bottom. You will certainly discover that you're missing 5 of them. You will end up spilling oil on inaccessible parts that are above those panels. Bring some spray parts cleaner with you and clean all that up before you put it back together. This fill plug was really tight. It had obviously never been removed in 61,000 miles. You absolutely must loosen that plug before you go any further because draining the transmission without being able to refill it is going to lead to serious problems. Having assistance really helps. That's especially true when removing the transmission pan that still has a lot of oil in it because you have to then pour it into the container that you're using to measure that oil. Okay, generally, you're going to fill as much as you can, lower the car, idle it for about 30 seconds while that oil gets into the filter and the pan, raise it again, fill it again as much as you can, lower it, start the engine, run it through first gear, second gear, and reverse, leave it running, put it back up, fill it again until it overflows with the engine running and the exhaust hot, then put in the fill plug. Find other descriptions and videos for this fill process, which occurred after our battery died, because it is really a pain. So how do you do that? Well, the lesson learned is before you start the job, go find another tube that fits on your pump. Then soften it with hot air or hot water, bend it into about 180 degrees like you see here, and let it set in that shape. Then use this hose, not the straight one that came with the pump, to complete the fill without having to go over the hot exhaust. BMW, frankly, you guys are so smart, you're just stupid. Oh, and there's no such thing as a lifetime fluid. Let's wrap this up. While the specification is much higher, we ended up putting in about 4.5 liters. Now that was still a lot more than we took out, so some of it had obviously been used. Finally, there's a lot of instruction out there that you have to recode the transmission after this job. That doesn't make a lot of sense if all you're doing is changing the fluid without touching really anything in the machine. So I did not recode it. The car's been running fine, no codes, no problems. It seems to be good. So again, sorry about the camera failure. That's it. Please post your lessons learned in the comments.